Well, I don't know that they've not always been interested in the human race, but what I do know is the antithesis is also true. That if a person's in suffering, in guilt, in unworthiness, in shame, that's a different energy. And you attract different consciousnesses as a result of that, yeah? And now all of a sudden you, in a sense, have a parasite that's weakening the host, but not weakening enough that it destroys it, right? So you have that happens as well, and just because you have a body doesn't mean you don't have a body doesn't mean you're enlightened, you know? So now you raise the frequency of a person's field, and now they're already there. They're everywhere, and they don't have to, there's a vibrational match, let's just say that. So I think that when you get to those greater levels of love and you've moved past victimization or importance or control or need to be in power or whatever it is, that when you're at a different consciousness and it's selfless, you get a selfless reflection. And that selfless reflection is going to be a consciousness that doesn't necessarily live in three-dimensional reality, because once energy makes it here, you're no longer bound to the three-dimensional reality. You're connected to a field. So vibrational match, all of a sudden your energy's at that point, and there's a door. And now you're going to get somebody who's going to, in your state of emotional freedom, in your state of bliss or ecstasy or whatever it is, there's a perfect opportunity for a being that's vibrating at a similar frequency to begin to influence a person's future. But by the same means, if you can't get to that point and you're stuck, well, then there are beings that love to feed off emotions and feed off energy. And I've seen those too, because when a person finally gets beyond their suffering or whatever, they no longer can host on that person because they're no longer that emotion, that energy any longer. So then all of a sudden the person experiences a tremendous amount of freedom as well. And yeah, of course, now they're setting themselves up for something else. What I do know, though, is that our intention really is to connect to the divine. Our intention is to become divine. Our intention is to open our hearts and trust again, to love again. Our intention is to teach our bodies emotionally what our future could feel like, to trade guilt and shame and resentment and jealousy and envy and competition for love. And we practice that in our week-long events. And once this center begins to open up, we're after coherence. So if you have a coherent heart and you're able to manage that and sustain the heart coherence, the field around your body begins to expand up to 3 meters wide. And that frequency, that coherent frequency, is like a Wi-Fi signal. You got a signal now. And at the same time, once energy makes it to the heart and it goes to the brain, and you teach a person how to create a coherent brain and be able to suppress the mechanism of the thinking neocortex, the memory bank of the known self, teach a person how to operate from their limbic brain and tune that pineal gland into frequency. Now you have a Wi-Fi signal as well, and it can read information. And these beings, I was doing this event in Florida, on Amelia Island. It was an advanced event, advanced follow-up. And this is people that have done advanced workshops, and the event was called Dreamtime, that we're up from 11 at night till 8 in the morning for the mystical. And if you don't want to do the mystical, don't come. But I'm going to be messing with your sleep. And I stay up the entire night. I'm watching the entire audience, and we're keeping them between worlds, between wakefulness and sleep in that theta realm. And many people have very profound transcendental experiences, why we're doing it. And I was trying to think of a way to explain this to the audience, and I had just finished the morning. I hadn't done my meditation, so I went into my room, I sat up, I did my meditation, and then I laid down. And when I laid down, all of a sudden, I see this beautiful fractal pattern with my eyes closed in the room. And the moment I see that fractal pattern, I know that that's order, that's information, a packet, a standing wave of information. And I sense it, I see it with my eyes closed, and then it unfolds, like it rolls out, and this beautiful being is standing right next to me. And I'm sitting there with my eyes closed, and I say, oh shit, like, holy, like, whoa. And I hear it laugh, and it sounds like a symphony, like a harmony. And it said to me while I was thinking about how to explain how we read frequencies, like that fractal pattern, that's information. And it said, may I suggest a barcode? And I thought, while he said that or she said that, I said, what do you know about barcodes? Do you shop in a supermarket? And it laughed really loud. And as soon as I saw the barcode, I knew that the only way a barcode could be read is with a laser. And a laser is coherent light. And when you have that coherent heart and that coherent brain, now you're producing a very multidimensional signal. And now you can read that fractal. It's just information. It's coming from source, and it's slowing down into patterns, and your pineal gland is actually going to take that and transduce that into profound imagery. That's what it's going to do. So it's like a barcode. So then, as we begin to create more coherence in the brain, more coherence in the heart, you're creating a very profound laser, a Wi-Fi signal that can allow you to read information. You can't read it if you're separate. You can't read it if your brain's incoherent. You can't read it if your heart's incoherent. And so the more coherence and order you have, the more the experience gets enriched, because you can't read that information unless you're ready for it. That's the point. So as people start getting through this and they start having very profound moments, and they're now opening their heart, and they can sustain heart coherence, and they know how to create brain coherence. That's the formula. And now they have a laser. They have coherent light and information that can read information that exists beyond the senses. And the pineal gland, once activated, will transduce it into profound imagery. And whether you see it with your eyes open or your eyes closed, doesn't matter, because it's more real than anything you've ever experienced.
Did they share with you some formulas or some new ways of healing, or some information that came to you, like really physically, that you're applying in your workshop these days, or is it just really observing?
We'll save that for another.
Come on, Joe.
Well, I'm certainly.
There's only the moment. There's only the present moment.
I hesitate to say, but let's say that I get a lot of downloads before an event, and I don't know a lot of times where they come from. A lot of times I do know where they come from. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not going to get caught up in the phenomenon. Because when you get caught up in the phenomenon, now you're trying to make it happen. I actually do the opposite. I love to be tired and silly. I like to be tired and happy. When my body is so tired that I can't even think anymore, but I'm kind of in between worlds, and I'm happy, I'm loose, and I'm free, and that's when I start gaining access to information. So I don't really judge how it comes. It doesn't matter to me. The fact is that if I'm getting it, I know that that's where we need to go. And so
trust in the process.
I trust a lot. I trust a lot. So I'm not afraid of that. I'm not the type of person that ever talks about it. I never spent a lot of time thinking about it. But when I started to perceive it, I knew that I had to pay attention to it. And now it's not just me. And it's not people making stuff up. It's the people, as a result of their experience, have some type of change in their life, some type of change in their body, some type of change in their future. And they're just worthy at that moment. They are worthy to receive. And why? You stretch a person outside of the known. You take them on that journey, and they're going to go with you. And they're going to get beyond their fear, their pain, their past, their identity, all the things that keep us trapped in the same world. And we stretch people outside of that realm. And every time they step into the unknown and they realize it's safe, they relax a little bit more. And they're a little bit more happy with themselves. They're a little bit more in love with themselves. They're believing in themselves a little bit more. And all of a sudden now, they feel worthy. And the universe only gives us what we think we're worthy of receiving. So a person's in a state of grace and worthiness. Doors open. Like, let's show you. I mean, there's a lot of experiences right now between where we are in three-dimensional reality and our journey back to the zero-point field and singularity. And I would say that I would limit my experience of all those possibilities if I had a judgment on how I thought they would happen. So I just keep staying open. I keep practicing the formula. I don't try. If they're sometimes, I don't really. If they're not there, I don't see them. Then I get what I get. Because I see other crazy things too that are pretty cool. So, well, it's those fractal patterns that I've come to love so much. And when I see or perceive those fractal patterns, these complex geometric patterns that are iterating, they're not static. They're alive. They're the very force of life. And the more orderly and the more complex they are, the more syntropy they have, the more I know it's coming from source. It's and the brain, the lungs, the kidneys, a fern leaf, a pine cone have the same patterns that are just an expression in three-dimensional reality. So think of source energy like the light bulb in the projector. Think of those patterns as a holographic pattern that then projects the hologram into three-dimensional reality. So seeing these fractal patterns then, seeing this beautiful mathematical patterns that are iterating and moving and changing, they're so fascinating that you can't not look at them.